Hey everyone, my name is Tarek Alkorani, and I hope you all are doing well during this very weird time in history. So I'm a photographer and filmmaker based out of the Toronto area, and I thought I'd just make a YouTube channel to help share some of these tips that I have to anyone who's interested in listening to them. So the first tip I have for you guys would be to use some of your friends' equipment. Let's say you text someone to be like, hey, can we go out to shoot one day? Be like, sure. So you guys go out, you learn about shutter speed, ISO, aperture, things like that, which leads you to the second tip, which is to buy some used equipment. Buying new equipment would be nice and all, and if you have the money, go ahead and do that, because you're saving yourself the risk of breaking equipment and not having a warranty. But personally for me, every time I buy used equipment, I don't have any complaints whatsoever. I bought my equipment off of places like Facebook Marketplace, Kijiji, or even eBay. Like my Sony a6300, I bought that off of Facebook Marketplace from one seller. Works perfectly fine, I have no complaints whatsoever. As for my Sigma 31.4, I bought that off of eBay, also from a seller. Works perfectly, I have no complaints once again. And even for my Sigma MC11 and for my Sony 51.8 OSS, they work perfectly fine, and I got both of those off of Kijiji from sellers as well. Personally, I'd recommend just buying used equipment to save some money, especially if you're starting out. It's better that way. Of course, do some testing before you purchase the equipment, just so you can see any defects and whatnot. And if you're not sure what to look for, search some tutorials up on YouTube on how to detect different things for lenses or cameras, any camera equipment whatsoever. Now for my third tip, what you want to do is research some photography techniques and apply those to your own photography, or even go on Instagram, look at some photos of photographers that inspire you, and base your photos around that. And then once you understand their style and whatnot, you begin to transform your own style, and then at the end of the day, you'll have your own style. Now of course, don't blatantly go out and copy those photographers, unless of course it does help you. Back when I started out, I was inspired by photographers. I used their techniques and styles, and then I transformed into my own style. Now for the fun part, well, this whole thing's a fun journey, but editing is really fun. So now for the editing, what you want to do is ask your friends if they have any programs that they might be able to let you use for like a few days just to edit, or even a few hours, doesn't matter. And if that isn't possible, you go ahead and use some free trials. Once you figure out which program works for you, you go ahead and get the paid version. So some programs you might want to look into would be Lightroom, Photoshop, VSCO, or Afterlight. I know when I first started out, I was using programs like VSCO and Afterlight to edit my photos, and that was about like 6 or 7 years ago. Once I learned how to work around exposure, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, clarity, things like that, I was able to apply the techniques I developed in those apps over to Lightroom. And then once again, I developed my own style in Lightroom, just because I understood that interface much more, and they offered a lot more options than the other two. I'll occasionally use Photoshop as well. And now I know I said 4 tips, but I have a very important 5th one, and that would be gear doesn't matter as much as developing your vision does. Of course, you hear a lot of the time gear doesn't matter, and I most of the time agree. What you want to do is invest time into learning and invest time into improving yourself. And then once you feel like you've improved yourself enough, and you understand what lens you might need or what camera you might need and how those can help further improve your work, then you go ahead, make the investment into your gear. So maybe purchasing a new camera. I know when I started out, I had a Canon Rebel T5. Now I moved on to a Sony a6300. Have my eyes on some new cameras, but of course I gotta keep playing around with this one before I spend more money. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope these 5 tips help you out on your journey to becoming a photographer. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Comment down below which tip really helped you out the most. And yeah, thanks again, and good night.